Hey, you guys, thank you for listening and following along with us here at Wellness Rebranded. We want you to know that this isn't just a podcast, it's a community and a movement. We are unlearning those toxic diet culture messaging, the unhelpful societal pressures, and we're relearning a different way of caring for our health and well-being. And we want to have a two-way communication with you. So we've just created a brand new Instagram page at Wellness Rebranded. We really want you to come follow along, connect with us, talk with us, download our self-care planner while you're there, get on our email list. We have so many fun and valuable things to share with you beyond just our podcast episodes. And this is how we're going to start connecting in a deeper, more meaningful way. So please come follow along.
And let's start rebranding. Let's keep rebranding our wellness journey.
Welcome to Wellness Rebranded, the podcast where a dietitian, a personal trainer, and a mental health therapist get together to explore health and wellness from 3 different healing perspectives. I'm Elizabeth, registered dietitian and certified intuitive eating counselor.
I'm Maria, licensed mental health therapist.
And I'm Tara, personal trainer. We believe in finding ways to nourish a healthy relationship with our mind and body, eating for well-being, not weight, finding joy in moving our bodies, and embracing and understanding our emotions. We are here to help you redesign your relationship with food, fitness, and yourself.
How great would it be if you got science-based guidance from qualified professionals instead of trying out conflicting, overhyped, and unproven trends?
If that sounds as awesome to you as it does to us, join us every week as we dig into strategies to enrich and enhance our day-to-day life and health.
And let's start rebranding your wellness journey.
Hey there, it's Elizabeth. I want to preface this conversation that we're about to have by acknowledging that I live in a genetically thin body and experience all the cultural privileges that come along with that. I in no way want to claim that I experience weight stigma in the way that folks in larger bodies do in our culture. But I do think that this conversation is an important one to have because it highlights the harms of weight-centric healthcare and it brings important conversations out into the open. So enjoy the episode. Hop on over to Wellness Rebranded on Instagram when you are done and connect with us there. Share your thoughts and questions. Okay, you guys, I have a story to tell you that I think you'll find interesting and our listeners will find very helpful / instructive. So I'm 50. I recently turned 50 in December.
Beautiful 50.
Yeah.
Amazing 50.
I went to the doctor. I'm also definitely in perimenopause, if not menopause.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to the doctor and I did a bunch of testing for a physical. And one of the things that came back was that my cholesterol was elevated, which was very surprising to me because I've never had elevated cholesterol before.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what happened?
You started questioning
Yes.
the accuracy of the test.
I did for half a second think, wait, can this be right? I was surprised. But so I started asking the doctor questions about it because, of course, I've never had that come back before.
Yeah.
And she basically told me one thing and one thing only. And the thing was, yes, your cholesterol is high. Now my HDL was extra high, so like take off a little bit of that, but then it was still high. My LDL cholesterol was still higher than the benchmark.
Mm-hmm.
And the recommendation that I was given was that I should just lose weight.
I hate this story.
And I thought,
Wait.
yes.
So what exactly, just like that, like, okay, Elisa, yeah, your cholesterol is high.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, the solution and only solution for this
Yes.
is for you to lose weight.
Mm-hmm. She said I should work on losing 5 to 10 pounds, and that would fix my cholesterol. And so you can imagine that I had a lot of thoughts running through my head as this was going on. First of all, I am a person who lives in a smaller body, right? And I was immediately thinking to many of my clients who live in larger bodies and how just, what's the word, pervasive weight stigma is in healthcare, and how all the things we talk about all the time on the podcast, it was interesting to experience it from a different light, right?
Okay, but excuse my ignorance, and I'm very sorry if this is very ignorant, but you can even lose weight and not lower your cholesterol.
Well, of course,
Yes.
you could.
It has not, I mean, it's
You could
not
also gain weight
cause
and not
effect
elevate your
and
cholesterol.
not elevate your cholesterol. It's not like, and that was the only thing.
That was literally the only thing she said. And I sat there and I certainly had lots of information that I could provide to her to change the conversation around it.
Mhm.
But I just decided to sort of ask a couple of follow-up questions to
Okay.
see what would happen. But here's the
Wait,
reason.
what did you ask?
I don't, to be honest, I don't remember. I think I asked her, what did I ask her? I don't know. It'll come to me probably.
I hate this experience because I get this all the time, right? Because I live in a larger body. So
Mhm.
every time I go to the doctor, if anything's ever wrong,
Lose weight.
it's lose weight.
Yeah.
And
My butt itches. Lose weight.
yeah, totally. I was wondering where that was going.
Maria, do you need to step out?
And Elizabeth just spits her water everywhere.
No, but I see your point. Like it doesn't, because it's not based on.
Yes.
And
So commonly what I'll do is say, so what are my options? And they usually say just lose weight. And I say, so what would you tell me if I was in a thinner body? Like, what do you tell skinny people who have this problem?
Wow.
And they're always just like flabbergasted, right? But Elizabeth, living in a thinner body, doesn't have the option to ask that question. So I can see where this is confounding.
Well, fortunately, I do have lots of other tools, but here's the real reason why I wanted to share it on the podcast. First of all, just to validate for anyone who's ever gone to the doctor and presented with any quote unquote problem, and all they've ever been told is lose weight. We see you, we understand.
We're here for you. We've been there.
We stand in solidarity that it is phenomenally unhelpful guidance. But the real reason what I wanted to talk about is here's what the doctor didn't say and what she didn't ask me. She didn't ask me anything about my diet. She didn't ask me, and this is a relatively new doctor, by the way, so she doesn't necessarily know what I do.
Correct.
She
And even
didn't-
if they do, that changes. You have to ask.
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent point. But she didn't ask me what my diet consisted of, how much fiber I eat, how much saturated or trans fat I eat, how many omega-3s I eat. She didn't ask me anything related to my diet. She didn't ask me how I sleep, right? Which would impact my appetite, my stress levels. She didn't ask me about my stress levels, which of course are correlated with heart health. She didn't ask me what my movement patterns
I
look
was gonna
like.
say,
Is there
yes.
any reason what, like, for example, I've started training with you in the time since I last had a physical. She didn't ask, have your movement patterns changed? Have you perhaps gained muscle? Is there anything there?
You've definitely gained muscle.
I'm a very excellent trainer.
Or even genetics, right? Is there?
Yeah, she didn't ask about
Are there any
genetics.
history? I
She
mean,
didn't offer me any guidance on how I should lose weight and keep it off and whether there's an evidence-based way to do that. She didn't screen me for an eating disorder before just blatantly telling me.
I've never been screened for an eating disorder that I know of, and weight loss is always the advice that I'm given.
Which is troubling because before you're going to tell someone that they need to change their diet and presumably cut out a bunch of calories or a bunch of foods, you should be asking questions to ascertain whether it's someone who's struggling with disordered eating or an eating disorder or what their history is. What if I had a history of that in my past and now you have potentially just triggered me and you don't know how that's going to land?
Every now and then at the gym, I'll meet someone who is like recovering from an eating disorder or is recovered from an eating disorder. And people around us at the gym will mention like, oh, like, have you put on a couple pounds? And it's always like, yes, because she was trying to. Like, what are we doing? Just assuming that weight loss is always the goal.
And also that it's appropriate to comment on someone else's body
Right.
ever, which I know we've talked about many
Yes.
times. But so I wanted to share that story because, well, just to highlight how
Yes. How
unhelpful
pervasive
it
it
is,
is.
how pervasive the weight equals health conversation is. I even talked to her again on the phone after sort of another test had been done and that it came up again, and I gave her another opportunity to share something different with me around it, and I got exactly the same
Answer. Or
answer.
recommendation.
Yeah.
It feels like that means there's a root problem with our healthcare system.
Well, I mean,
Like they're obviously all getting taught the same, like, oh, if someone has high cholesterol, then the answer is lose weight,
mhm.
right?
Well, and
Yeah.
that the care is not individualized. It's like, again, even if that was a recommendation or something that could help, I don't believe in anything that gives me only one way of doing it.
Yeah.
This is it. I mean, I don't know anything else about you, and this is how you're gonna do it, and that's the
Mhm.
only way. It can be. It can be.
Yeah, and so I just thought it was a powerful story to just point out all the different ways that conversation could have gone and would have gone had it been a weight neutral or a weight neutral provider who understands the difference between just asking, just giving that one blatant
Yeah.
recommendation versus asking questions and getting to know the person that's in front of you and focusing on behaviors, not weight, and also letting people know that I happen to be someone who's going through perimenopause. There's an association between a lot of women at that time in life. Their cholesterol goes up. There was no conversation around that. It immediately was, you must be doing something wrong. And so if you fix that thing wrong and lose weight, lose those 5-10 pounds, then that will solve the problem.
So let's talk for a minute about
And
the
that's
impact, the possible impact
yes.
for a person leaving that appointment,
Mm-hmm.
the thinking process and the emotions that can come after a conversation like this with a medical professional.
Yeah, it's
That you-
immediately going to make you feel bad,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
It is, I work with people all the time who avoid going to the doctor because they
Yes.
don't
You
want,
don't want that conversation. You don't want to feel like that.
yeah, it's uncomfortable, it's not helpful, and
Which is scary because then you might miss like regular screenings, you might miss
Mhm.
appointments that are necessary to help keep you healthy.
and it's also one of the confounding variables, right? If people in larger bodies are avoiding going to the doctor because they're, made to feel as though their bodies are wrong or what they're doing is wrong or their stigma or their shame or the physical space simply isn't accommodating of their
Mhm.
body, well, then those people are getting delayed or potentially no care. And that also contributes to poor health outcomes, but it's not recognized
Yeah.
as a confounding variable.
No, we're reduced to
A number.
one thing
Mhm.
only.
Mhm.
Our whole us, the whole you is reduced to one. No, but nothing else happens
Mhm.
except that.
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm
Sorry
sorry.
that happened to
Yes,
you.
I'm
Oh,
sorry.
it's okay. I mean, fortunately, this is what I do, right? I had a
Right.
lot of tools. I've had a lot of, yeah. It
But most people don't have all
No, they
yeah.
don't, and that's why I wanted to share it because I think it's really unfortunate that that's how so many conversations in so many doctors' offices are unfolding, and the more we can spread the message and the more we can share tools with our listeners, like Tara, you gave a great one of how you can handle those conversations when they do come up and when they do happen to you is helpful, like being able to ask that question.
Mhm.
Well, what would you tell someone in a thinner body who is experiencing that same thing? I would like to talk about that. Or I am, healing my relationship with food or recovering from disordered eating or an eating disorder, whatever the case may be. And I prefer to focus on behaviors, not weight. Or, here's some information about weight inclusive care and I would like you to read it. And, you know,
Yeah.
there's ways of handling it, but also just knowing that if that happens to you, you are not the problem, your body's not the problem.
Right.
Mhm.
That is a flawed
Yeah.
conversation,
Mhm.
And it's hard to do
and you're
that.
not alone. It is so
right?
hard to do
Like
it.
we work in this space
Mhm.
and I'm used to that situation and I still have a hard time going like, hey, I'm interested in weight neutral care and focusing on behaviors and habits, not the
Mhm.
scale, because I feel like my whole life I've been told like, oh, doctors are so smart and doctors are trying to keep you healthy and all these things, which is all true, right? But
Mhm.
somehow it makes me feel like I don't know as much as they do,
Mhm.
even though in this particular instance I'm way more informed.
Mhm.
But it feels like I shouldn't be pushing back on that because of society,
Right.
right? So like it's hard to have that conversation. So if you're feeling intimidated by this, I completely understand it. But
Yeah,
I
it's
think if more of us have these conversations, we'll have a better model down the road.
yeah, I think the more we have the conversation around it and share experiences, and if you're out there and you've had a similar experience and you want to shoot one of us a note and tell us about it and know that you're not alone, like we're here.
Yeah, we'd love to
And
hear it.
we would love to hear from you. And
Support you.
I was telling this last night, I hosted a workshop on how to navigate stress and emotional eating. And I don't know, somehow this came up towards the end, and I was sharing a little bit of the experience. And I was, kind of saying the same things about, well, here's the conversations that didn't happen in that exchange. And someone came up to me afterwards and she said, I have to tell you. And she said, I have to tell you, I recently went to the doctor, or I recently found a doctor, and she is weight neutral. And what you said resonated with me so deeply. She said, I went to the doctor recently. We got to talking about how I had just run a marathon. And then the doctor started moving on to something else. And she said, she actually stopped her, I think because she's so accustomed to getting a lecture about weight, she actually stopped the doctor and said, "Oh, are you not going to say anything about my weight?" And the doctor said, "No, why would I do that? You literally just told me that you ran a marathon and we just had a conversation about what you were eating." And she said, we can focus on some other, like, let's dig into what you're here and talk about behaviors, not weight. And it was such a different
Yeah.
experience for her, such a different relationship with the doctor. She's so much more likely to go back.
Yeah.
And
This is the energy we're here for in 2024.
right? Yeah, but
This is
it's
what we want.
it's just powerful. So I don't know, it's a plug out there. If you are a doctor, maybe you could become a weight neutral one, a weight inclusive
Yes.
one. And if you're not and you're looking for one, they are fewer and further between, but they do exist. And not just doctors, but other multidisciplinary clinicians, dietitians, physical therapists, fitness,
Yes.
they are out there and you have to look for them. And
And this
can-
kind of information puts like our ears up when that happens, right? Because I hear you talk and I'm thinking of the many times I've taken my kids to the pediatrician and they weigh them, and then there's the comment like, oh, she's great weight. Or,
Mhm.
I was like, what does great weight means? Like,
Mhm.
or, and then they show you the chart where they are in terms of height and weight, and if you're
Mhm.
average or you're out of the curve,
Mhm.
and you're like, wow, it's everywhere.
Mhm. Yeah.
And the kid is listening to it like, oh, great weight, not great weight.
Yeah.
And then what?
Yeah.
What happens when we leave
Mhm.
that appointment without support to really guide towards something
Mhm.
more
Yeah.
evidence-based and
There
not just one variable?
Yeah, not just one variable. Yeah, I mean, it does start in pediatricians' offices a lot of times, and kids
Oh,
are
yeah.
listening and I have people share stories with me all the time about things that either happened to them around their weight as a child
Yep.
in a healthcare setting, or a comment that was made in front of their children. And
Mhm.
I was
I-
just telling Elizabeth this morning that when I was a kid, at some point they had me start stepping on the scale backwards. And they were probably, I would imagine, concerned about like eating disorders and things like that, right? So they just had me step on the scale backwards and they didn't say anything about my weight. but that's where it ended. So for like years after, I would like step on the scale backwards, like at the OBGYN or wherever. And I remember being on the scale one time and they go, "Oh, do you have an eating disorder?" And I was like, "No, I don't think so." Like nobody told me I do. And then they'll just be like, "Okay." And then they read my weight out loud anyway. And I'm kind of like, man, like that should be a red flag. Like if someone's stepping on the scale
Yeah.
backwards,
Yeah, they clearly don't want to know.
they don't want to know.
Many people even refuse. I have friends that refuse to be
Yes.
weighed unless it's because of medication purposes or something.
Yeah,
and they
people, I
need-
think people don't know that. We have a consent-based medical system. You don't
Mhm.
automatically have
You
to
don't
get
have
weighed. There's
to.
only a handful of
Mhm.
scenarios. Dosing certain medications is
Mhm.
one of them where they really truly
Mhm.
Need your
need
weight,
your
yeah.
weight.
to provide care.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not for information on your chart that
Yep.
Uh-huh.
most likely is not relevant to.
Uh-huh.
Or maybe if you're going through treatment and they want to see
Mhm.
wholesome effects or impact in your body, then maybe, yeah.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like completely prepared for like the day that the pediatrician tells me and my son like something about his weight that I'm completely going to be like, "Nope, we don't care about that." I don't want to hear this.
Yeah, and
And
I would,
particularly not in front of him,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
yeah.
Like no,
Yeah.
not happening.
Yeah, and you're able to do that and
You have
advocate, and
that
I have to
right,
respect
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And I do have there's a couple of resources if people are listening and want to feel better equipped to have those kinds of conversations with their doctor. I have a bundle that was put together by Maggie Landis, who's a weight neutral MD that she shared and gave us permission to share, with some cards that you can provide to the doctor, some things you can tell them that you would like to focus on, right? Different lab markers, different things. And then I'm pretty sure Reagan Chastain,
Yes.
who was a recent guest, also has tools
Mhm.
and resources available for visiting the doctor. So we can link that in the show notes
Yeah.
as well.
That's great.
That is great.
Yeah.
We have tools for you guys. You just have to use them,
Yeah.
Mhm.
which is the hard part.
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. And also the one thing that I did want to say is before we wrap up is just normalizing that our bodies change as we go through different ages and stages of life, right?
Yeah.
They
Yes.
change in adolescence, we go through
As they
puberty.
should,
If
yeah.
you're a
Right.
woman and you're pregnant, like pre-pregnancy, post-pregnancy, they change. If you're a woman and you're going through menopause, the vast majority of women do gain weight or it gets redistributed in different ways through
Yes.
menopause, and that is normal.
Yeah.
Yes. Unexpected.
Yeah, and can we just start normalizing that?
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of making people feel bad or
Right.
giving them the message that it's either not supposed to happen or you're doing something wrong.
And
Yep.
punishing yourself for something that is expected to happen and natural to happen, natural
Mhm.
processes of your body.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you're fighting nature in a
Mhm.
way, and that's a big load to carry.
Elizabeth, thank you for sharing your story with
Yes.
us. I'm so glad you're one of the leaders of our community, spearheading the movement here
Yes.
to help make the world a better, more weight neutral place.
Yes.
Thank you. Likewise, I'm happy to be here with you. And for all of you listening, come connect with us.
Through our new Instagram page, Wellness Rebranded. Also in the show notes, you'll find our information for our websites, our own Instagrams as well. And please leave a review, follow, subscribe, share the podcast with friends.
Yeah, tag us on Instagram. If you like it, post it up, throw it up on your stories, tag us. We'll shout you out and celebrate you, and it will help spread the word and get it into more people's hands.
Thank you for listening. If you want to connect with me outside of this podcast, you can find me on Instagram at coaching_therapist.
I'm Elizabeth. You can find me at Elizabeth Harris Nutrition or in my Facebook group, Health and Healing with Intuitive Eating.
And I'm on Instagram and Facebook at Tara DeLeon Fitness. Guys, if you loved this episode or any of our other episodes, we would love it if you would leave us a review on Apple Podcast.